She nearly choked on her first forkful of fettuccine, a sharp cough escaping her lips, followed by a strained, barely audible gasp. Her wine glass wobbled precariously in her hand, threatening to spill crimson across the pristine tablecloth. I didn't flinch. My gaze remained steady, fixed on her, as her phone buzzed beside her plate, screen glowing with a new message just as I placed the carefully grated pecorino on the table. The words were unmistakable, crude and brazen. Asterisk, can't wait to feel you again, baby. Asterisk. I stirred my own pasta deliberately, the fork scraping softly against the porcelain, my face an unreadable mask of calm. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed, not just the food but the rising panic behind her eyes. They darted nervously to the phone, then to me, quick, guilty. I took a slow sip of my Merlot, letting the silence stretch between us like a taut wire. Everything okay? I asked, my tone light, almost playful. She forced a smile, lips trembling like fragile ice. Just spam, she said, voice cracking under the weight of her lie. Spam? I raised an eyebrow, feigning curiosity. From some random number. I've been getting weird texts lately, she said, too quickly, too rehearsed. She fumbled to flip the phone face down. I nodded slowly, letting the moment linger. Want me to take a look? I can block it for you. Her hesitation was brief but telling. A flicker of fear, a pause loaded with guilt. That single breath of indecision was all the proof I needed. Her lie was polished but not enough to fool me. We'd been married for 12 years, together for 15. I used to believe she was my sanctuary, my refuge in a chaotic world. Her scent, a blend of jasmine and soft vanilla, clung to our sheets. Her laughter was a melody I could have listened to forever. I loved her with a devotion that blinded me, or perhaps I chose to ignore the cracks forming beneath the surface of our perfect life. Love, when it's true, can be dangerous. When it's betrayed, it doesn't just break. It sharpens into something cold and calculating. The first seed of doubt sprouted 8 months ago when she came home late one night, a faint mark on her collarbone she dismissed as a gym injury. Bumped into the equipment, she said, avoiding my gaze. Our apartment had no gym, no equipment to blame. That night, as she slept, I unlocked her phone, her passcode unchanged after all these years. The device was suspiciously clean, but she'd overlooked one detail. Her cloud storage was still synced. By dawn I found it, a single photo that turned my blood to ice. There she was in our bed, a stranger's hand resting possessively on her waist. The fingers were inked with a crude tattoo, a cheap silver ring caught the light. The mirror behind her reflected his face, Marcus, our personal trainer. I'd shaken his hand at the gym, listened to his tips on protein shakes, all while he was entwined with my wife. I didn't confront her then. Anger without strategy is just noise. Instead, I played the part of the oblivious husband. I went to the gym and let Marcus spot me during lifts, his hands steadying the barbell while I imagined them elsewhere. Each rep was a countdown, a step toward retribution. I needed time to build my case to ensure every move was precise. I hired a private investigator, not just to confirm the affair, but to unearth every detail, financial and personal. The evidence piled up like a house of cards ready to collapse. Hotel receipts, text exchanges, intimate photos, even voice messages she'd sent him. Words so raw they seared themselves into my memory. I saved every shred, every digital footprint of her betrayal. She was clever but not clever enough. Our joint account funded dinners she never shared with me, weekends away she claimed were work trips. Each transaction was a breadcrumb. I followed the trail meticulously, gathering proof like a hunter collecting trophies. In secret, I consulted a lawyer, transferring assets into a trust solely under my name. She never noticed when I siphoned funds into a private account. Her trust in our routine blinded her to my maneuvers. By the time she suspected anything, it would be too late. For weeks, I played the devoted husband. I cooked her favorite meals, wore the cufflinks she gifted me for our last anniversary, kissed her forehead with a tenderness that felt like ashes in my mouth. Tonight was our anniversary dinner, a carefully orchestrated performance. I set the table with meticulous care, poured the wine, and smiled as if my heart wasn't a graveyard. The trap was ready. Her phone, left unlocked as always, was the perfect bait. I'd used a burner app to message Marcus, posing as her, coaxing him into sending that incriminating text. He fell for it, believing she was texting him mid-dinner. His arrogance was his undoing. When the message arrived, right on cue, she froze. The pasta caught in her throat. I watched her struggle, not with the food but with the crushing weight of her own deception. I rose, walked to the kitchen counter, and returned carrying a small manila envelope. I placed it beside her plate. "What's this?" she whispered, hands trembling. "Open it," I said, my tone neutral. She hesitated, then tore it open. Inside was a USB drive and a single sheet of paper, the word "Checkmate" scrawled in black ink. Her eyes met mine, wide with dread, tears already pooling. "I know everything," I said softly but unyieldingly. "Every lie, every hotel room, every text." She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand. "I gave you months to come clean. You didn't." Her lips quivered. "Please, I can explain." "No," I cut her off, voice cold. "I'm done with your scripts." I slid a second envelope across the table. Divorce papers already filed, with terms that left her with nothing. I'd moved too swiftly for her to counter. "I trusted you," I said, standing. "I built a life for us and you traded it for sweat and stolen moments." Tears streamed silently down her face. "And Marcus," I added with a cold smile curling my lips, "he's finished. The gym fired him after I sent them the evidence." Her head jerked up. "What evidence?" "You'll see," I said, walking toward the door. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Marcus's wife left him, taking their son. His name was dragged through online fitness communities. His career lay in ruins. My wife, soon to be my ex, fled to her cousin's house, scrambling to access accounts I'd already drained. She called friends for support, only to find they'd already seen the truth I shared. As for me, I sleep soundly. Revenge isn't a wildfire, it's a scalpel. The quiet satisfaction of watching someone realize the ground beneath them was carved away long before they fell. When she choked on that fettuccine, it wasn't the pasta that caught her, it was the bitter taste of her own choices finally catching up.